Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Football Touchback, Week 5 of the NFL season. My name is Chris, that is Megan, and we're going to go ahead and get started because we have a lot to talk about today. Between our recap from last week, the injuries across the league, and the beginning of the bye weeks in the NFL season. So let's get started. We kind of hit really where we wanted to on the sleeper picks. I think there was only one or two that we were kind of off on, but overall we did really, really well. Unfortunately, the traps were a trap for us. Every single person, with the exception of Travion Henderson, kind of did really well. They didn't start off as well, but then the second half of the league day happened and it just made us look silly. So we'll get to the locks, and all of them were pretty much locked. Thank you, Ibuka, for having a 77-yard catch. That kind of helped. Josh Allen, woot woot. And then, of course, everybody else on there did the Houston shutout, which I called. So, just, small victories.
Are you proud of your
I
calling
am.
the
I
shutout?
am. You asked me a question, and I said, yeah, the only team that's going to get shut out. And Houston shut out the Tennessee Titans. I was really happy about that. But unfortunately, like every week we're going to see in the NFL, are the injuries. And boy, did we have some last week. Between Lamar Jackson hurting his hamstring somewhere, they're saying he's not probably going to play this week, but they haven't ruled him out yet. Brock Purdy flared up that toe injury again. Bucky Irving can't figure out what's exactly wrong with him, where's exactly wrong with him, so they keep asking for second opinions off the MRI. Cedric Tillman, as of 8 hours ago, just got tossed on IR. Tyreek Hill, man, was that a gruesome injury. Years ago, that would have been a career ender, done, kaput, no questions asked. So hopefully he can come
Probably
back.
still a career ender, but
Yeah,
definitely out for the season.
yeah. I mean, his agent is saying that optimistically, realistically, he'll be back next year. We will wait and see. So toss him on that IR, especially in those franchise leagues. Terry McLaurin, doubtful we'll see him this week, but there's always that chance until they say he's out. He is not out. And then another person, another all-star in Malik Neighbors being out for the season with a torn ACL, if I'm not mistaken on that one. So it's an absolute just heartbreaker for some of those teams. But luckily, teams who are injured, they're getting into those bye weeks, and luckily we have a few here. Megan?
Yeah, absolutely. So with fantasy football, you always want to make sure that you're making sure that your quarterbacks don't have the same bye weeks, and the same with goes for your wide receivers, running backs, kickers, defense, everybody, right? So, um, we wanted to make sure that you guys knew that the Atlanta Falcons, the Chicago Bears, the Green Bay Packers, and the Pittsburgh Steelers are all on bye week this week. They will be back next week, but this week they're not playing at all. So make sure that if you have somebody on those teams, on your teams, that you're sitting them this week and pulling somebody else off of your bench.
Absolutely. Is there anybody hurting for you from those teams this week, Meg?
I don't think so, thankfully. I really haven't looked at my teams yet for next week. I'm kind of waiting on all the injury lists, and we'll figure it out from there. But for right now, I think I'm safe. I managed to pull out a win this week. Did you win this week?
I did. I won in my main league that I have with my franchise that I've been doing for years, and I survived my guillotine leagues, or my guillotine, excuse me, my guillotine league. I know, I'm working on it. My guillotine league. That look, I'm scraping by, just scraping by the bottom. So hopefully this next week I won't have to be sweating it out too much.
Sounds great. Want to talk about some matchups?
Let's go.
If you're enjoying the podcast, make sure you like and subscribe. Thank you. Welcome back to Fantasy Football Touchback. Now we're going to talk about matchups. Chris, why don't you kick us off with Thursday Night Football, San Francisco at LA Rams?
That's great. The one thing you're going to notice about this game is that San Francisco is full of injuries. They don't expect to be playing Brock Purdy, so Mac Jones is getting the start. They don't expect to have Ricky Pearsall, and they don't expect to have Jawan Jennings. So you're going to have DeMarcus Robinson and Kendrick Bourne in their place, which means all that volume is going to go straight to Christian McCaffrey. And if you know that they're going to Christian McCaffrey, then the Rams know they're going to him, and they're going to do everything in their power to stop him. So be cautious when you're starting him in your lineup for this week 5. On the offside, or the other side, excuse me, LA is going to be using their 1-2 punch with Matthew Stafford and Puka Nacua. Puka is the number one fantasy wide receiver in the league right now, so he is an automatic starter. Devontae Adams is a good for a touchdown every single week, is what it seems to be so far. And Kyron Williams, he's gonna go ahead and get the touches because that's really the only running back they're gonna use. But it's kind of hit and miss. Without Nick Bosa on the other side, it's probably a smart week to start Kyron Williams. That's all I have to say about this. You want to do our international game, Megan?
Yeah, sure. Minnesota at Cleveland. They're actually in London this week for the game of the international game. This is Minnesota's second week across the pond. They were in Dublin last week and now they're in London. JJ McCarthy is expected to play this game. We're not sure if they're going to opt for him, being that he hasn't played in a long time and they're on a international turf with the soccer fields and worried about more injuries there. But right now they're saying JJ McCarthy is going to play. Definitely check your news feeds before Saturday night. Hopefully you don't have the same issue I had this week with the game time decision
Yeah, I heard a
affecting
lot of
my
people.
fantasy teams. I did win my game, but it
Oh,
was
good.
very, 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 very close. um, Minnesota is definitely a second half team this year. I feel like they finally figured it out last week in the second half, but man, it was hard getting there. I also feel like Minnesota's really struggling with protecting that quarterback. Their O line needs to step up, and Brian O'Neill got injured last week, and it's really going to be tough to do the protection when you're missing him in the O line. So hopefully quarterbacks do okay, but don't expect them to be able to hang on to that ball very quickly or very long. As far as Cleveland goes, I don't know what Cleveland is doing. They're expecting to start Dylan Gabriel this week. I understand that Joe Flacco is not really doing what we expected him to do or what we were expecting him to do, but he's not being the veteran quarterback of years past. But still, starting a rookie quarterback in an international game, I, I don't get it. Also, Cedric Tillman was put on IR this week with a hamstring injury. Typically, hamstring injuries, not an IR thing, but putting him out for 4 weeks must be a pretty significant injury. So they were able to bring in 2 additional rookie wide receivers this week that they're going to start or off and on and figure out who does better. But again, starting rookie wide receivers in an international game, I really don't know what Cleveland's doing.
Big state. I completely. It's crazy.
It's true. Do you want to talk about Las Vegas and Indianapolis?
Absolutely. So the Raiders and Indianapolis, talk about two different tales of teams that we thought were going to be in each other's shoes. Vegas, we kind of expected to be up against Denver, trying to get that wild card, and Indianapolis looking for the number 1 overall pick in next year's draft. But Vegas can't keep the ball in their own hands. They have multiple turnovers every single game. The only good thing was Ashton Genty last week when he finally had his breakout game, but they also lost the right tackle. Yeah, exactly. I mean, everybody's been waiting for it. The first running back taken, and he broke out. It was great, but they lost their right tackle for the year, and they've been moved. They love to run him to the right, to the right. So with that right tackle being out, that's going to affect Ashton Genty. So unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see that kind of performance again. The other part of it is Brock Bowers. We kind of expected him to be a staple like he was last year, but he's having a sophomore slump, it seems, and he's still producing. He's still getting the targets. So in those PPR leagues, it is beneficial for us, but unfortunately, it's just not what we expected from him. Daniel Jones
he got injured too.
Yeah, but he's enough where he can play through it. It's one of those where like I said, he's still getting the targets, so it helps in PPR. But it's where he was last year it's night and day, because where he was last year is where Indianapolis's tight end Tyler Warren is doing. The kid is phenomenal. Him and Daniel Jones have absolutely figured that out. They have the chemistry. No matter what, if Daniel Jones gets in trouble, Tyler Warren's there. If Daniel Jones needs a touchdown, Tyler Warren is going to run it in. And when it's not, it's Michael Pittman. And so that's starting to build. But the workhorse is Jonathan Taylor. Use him, utilize him. He is the Saquon Barkley of this year. So make sure if you have him, there is not a week that goes by, even in a bad matchup, that you're not starting him. And then, of course, my favorite kicker, Spencer Strader for the Indianapolis Colts. This kid, he can absolutely hit from anywhere, and he is money. Again, still only has one miss on the season, I believe. So that's something really. I like Indianapolis in this. You want to go ahead and talk about the Saints?
Yeah, for sure. I was going to start with the Giants, though. Well, they had a great week last week.
One.
I was. They had a great week winning last week against the now 3-1 Chargers. Like, Chargers were looking great. I was thinking that they were going to be the next Chiefs, and after their performance last week against the Jets, we'll talk about the Chargers later. New York Giants at New Orleans Saints. Apparently, all the Giants needed was to light a fire underneath Dable to tell, all of the rumors that he was going to lose his job, and all of a sudden, their team, they can play. Not to mention starting Jackson Dart, which, I was kind of worried that with the rookie quarterback again trying to take up that team, I think he did great. I think he was exactly what they were expecting and was able to bring the Giants the win, but we'll see moving forward. Malik Neighbors, poor Malik Neighbors. He was doing so well. I was really feeling like he was starting to come into his zone, but he's out for the season, so make sure that he is not on your fantasy teams whatsoever. From the New Orleans side, I was really honestly shocked at how well they did against the Bills last week. Spencer Rucker? Rattler? Spencer Rattler is not a bad quarterback. Like I'm actually excited to see what he's able to do in the league moving forward. He has a great run game and their pressure on the quarterback on the other side. Like this, I feel like New Orleans is finally starting to figure out what they're going to do with the rest of this year, and hopefully week 5 is not too late to start with that. I do feel like New Orleans is probably going to do better in this game between Alvin Kamara and Chris Olave. I keep doing that every single week. Chris Olave. But who knows? I think that both sides of the ball are going to put up numbers this week. Chris, do you want to talk about Dallas you want to say some more about that?
Yeah, if I can say one more thing real quick about this. Since it is the first week of bye weeks, if you need players that have not been picked up, this is probably 2 rosters that you want to check your waiver wire and see if there's someone who has production, or you could get an easy trade on it. So this is one of those underrated matchups that I think you're going to probably see a good amount of.
That's a good point.
Should we go to the
Dallas
Jets?
At New York Jets.
Yeah.
Yep.
Glad we're on the same page. All right, Dallas and the Jets. Justin Fields came back, had a great game. Dak Prescott ended in a tie, but still put 40 points on the board. Javonte Williams can run the ball really well. Breece Hall can run the ball really well. George Pickens shows that CeeDee Lamb can take his time getting healthy. Garrett Wilson had a phenomenal game last week. Jake Ferguson got all of CeeDee Lamb's touches or targets, as it were, and Mason Taylor started to actually have the majority of the snaps as the tight end. If you haven't noticed, these teams are really equal in kind of where I'm saying. The only difference is going to be the records. And as a fantasy football podcast, we really only focus on the players, not really the records. So both sides are going to have their opportunities. Both sides are going to not probably blow out the other, but they're going to get at least targets and they're going to be a good average player for each. But when it comes to which one would you start more, it's pretty much a toss up. Garrett Wilson's probably not going to have a huge game like he did last week. George Pickens is not going to have a huge game like he did last week. So that's kind of where I am on the Cowboys and Jets game. You have anything for this game, Megan?
Justin Fields. We'll see now that he's expected to be back, that if he can really show us what the Jets are made of. Yeah, we'll see.
Well, then let's go to Philadelphia.
Sounds good. Philadelphia Eagles are only one of 2 4-0 teams left, them and the Bills. I would expect them to do well because they're Super Bowl champs, and they really haven't been struck by the injury bug yet. But I was a little shocked last week when the Bucs were able to shut down Saquon Barkley in the second half. Like, nobody has been able to do that thus far, and Saquon didn't have any real production in the second half last week. So I'm sure that other teams are going to be looking at what the Bucs did and trying to duplicate that. I'm not sure I feel like Denver's going to be able to do that. They're barely making ends meet as far as, hey, he throws the ball to him, and then maybe they get a touchdown. So I don't really feel like Saquon's going to have any problems in Denver this week. I think he's going to have the same level of touches and carries and touchdowns that we're accustomed to him having. From the Denver perspective, I really feel like at this point, week 5 of his sophomore year, Bo Nix should be doing better. He just looks like he's a baby. Really needs to work on his decision making and get on the same page as his coaching staff. There's potential there, and he'd be a great sleeper pick for somebody to keep in a legacy league and potentially move forward with. But for right now, I just don't feel like Bo's really showing us what needs to happen in Denver, especially if they're going to be a playoff contender in a couple of months. As far as the tight end, Evan Ingram, I'm also really shocked there. For a team that put so much effort into him in the off season and talking him up and trying to make it sound like he was going to be our not, I know I'm in Denver, but the Denver Broncos Kelsey, we haven't seen anything. He's getting more field time week over week, but no touches, no carries, no even looks from Bo. So I'm hoping Ingram does well moving forward, but it's not really something that I would definitely sit Ingram if he's on your team until we see a little bit more production from him. One final note on Denver at Philadelphia. This is a short week for Denver. They had the Monday Night Football game last week, and they're traveling to Philadelphia, which is on East Coast compared to Mountain Time. So I would anticipate that Denver's probably going to struggle as far as just being tired and not having the time to practice like Philadelphia does. Chris, do you have anything to say here, or should we move on to Miami?
You hit all the great points on that. Philadelphia, they look for them to do better than they did in the second half last week. Did you hear about the one stat that Jalen Hurts didn't complete a single pass in the second half? It was insane. I've never heard
nothing in the second half.
Nothing.
But
Tampa Bay lost that game. I still can't believe that you had zero offense, zero passing yards in the second half, and you still somehow win. Mind blowing. Has nothing to do with from what anything that you said, but it's one of those things where a random stat, just mind blowing to me. So where are we going next?
Thank you for the stat.
Oh, thank you. You're welcome. You said we're going to Carolina? Sure. Real quick. Miami versus Carolina. Carolina doesn't know if they want to be a good team or they want to be a high school team. It's really hard because there's so many good players on Carolina that there's opportunity. But as long as they have Bryce Young right now as their quarterback, they're just not going to do anything. They're going to all the teams are going to say, you know what, stack the box, make Bryce Young beat us, cover Tet McMillan, and then that's what else do they have? And they don't have anything. So they might have a little bit better chance this week because of facing Miami, who is reeling over the loss of Tyreek Hill in that absolutely
Yeah.
gruesome injury. Again, just it's devastating. But the one thing that you're going to see is Jalen Waddle is going to get all of his touches, and so he's going to break out. And Darren Waller is going to get touches. Hopefully, he can go ahead and show why he unretired. What happened today? Miami has brought back Cedric Wilson, who played for them last year. We will see if they just insert him right away. But other than that, they're just going to be rotating those wide receivers. There's not much to say about this game, other than that just really Miami needs to figure out a way to replace Tyreek Hill, and Carolina needs to figure out a way to be better than a high school team. So just be cautious. Again, you do have opportunity here, but I wouldn't really be saying, "Oh, I have to start them." This is a game of flex people, of flex position.
Yeah, I was gonna say too that Tech got injured in the game last week, just enough for him to miss a couple of plays, but he's he's new,
Yeah.
right? And he's potentially going to be amazing. So I
Oh,
kind of
he will
expect
be.
that Carolina's not going to use him as much this week because they want to keep him fresh and make sure that he's not going to get injured like more severely than last week.
Right. Right. Yeah. Very good point. It's you feel so bad for someone with so much talent that
I know.
Bryce Young can't get him the ball. It's
Yeah.
all right. Baltimore.
Yes, please. Houston, Texas had their first win of the season last week, and they shut out the Titans. I don't feel like I need to say it again, but I don't even understand how that was even possible. And then on the other side, Baltimore is so reliant on Lamar Jackson, and now he's out with a hamstring injury, not put on IR, not a lot of news on what is really going on with this hamstring, just he hurt his hamstring. So we don't really know what to expect with this game. I feel like if Lamar Jackson misses the game, which is probably pretty likely at this point, we haven't heard he's going to start or this is what the injury was or anything like that. I'm veering towards the he's going to miss the game. But he has Cooper Rush that is his backup and is a veteran of the sport, right? So I would expect Baltimore to be able to at least throw the ball and connect the wide receiver or hand it off or whatever it is fairly easily. But I also anticipate that Houston might be able to pull this win out from underneath Baltimore because their game actually works. And they've been playing together and CJ Stroud is fantastic when he gets that ball and has the ability to see everything he has available. Um but at the same time, CJ Stroud likes to hold on to that ball and think about every possible player that he could throw it to or hand it off to or whatever it is. And if Baltimore, even though they have the worst defense in the league, is able to capitalize on that, then Houston is out too. So I'm expecting Houston to do well this game. I'm not expecting anybody on Baltimore to really be able to do much. Derrick Henry has really fallen off the wagon as far as being great at his job. And we're really not seeing anybody but Loop de Loop just doing well on that side. So
Making a
I'm
mistake.
pulling for CJ Stroud to do well and to utilize his new favorite running back, Woody Marks. But we'll see. Anything else, Chris?
Oh, once again, hitting on every The next game we're going to go to is a real simple, fast game. Going to take you 15 seconds. Tennessee versus Arizona. That is not Tennessee versus Arizona. Excuse me, guys. Apparently, we have Tennessee versus Arizona. So we're going to be, like I said, it's going to be a really fast 15 seconds. Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison Jr. And so those are the only people you need to worry about. Don't start anybody on Tennessee. Those are the only two that are going. Trey McBride. Okay, so there's three. Kyler Murray is going to have a game with his dual threat. He's going to run a lot. Expect him to score at least one rushing touchdown. Marvin Harrison's going to go ahead and have a big game. And Trey McBride's going to score at least a touchdown, is what I figure in this game. As for Tennessee, there is nothing. Absolutely nothing. They're figuring out this is not even a, hey, I have bye week players. Don't put in Pollard. Don't put in Calvin Ridley. It's not worth it. I'm going to tell you right now. The Arizona defense is going to lump them up, and just that'll be the that's all I have to say. Why don't we just go to Seattle and hope we have the roster for them?
I'm going to wait until you figure it out. Yay!
There we go.
Congratulations, Chris.
Thank you very much.
All of mine are working.
Well, that's the important thing.
I mean, Tampa Bay at Seattle. There are a lot of injuries, which is pretty much what we've been saying this entire podcast is that we're really, really feeling the injuries as a whole throughout the NFL. Tampa Bay being one of them. We're not sure if Bucky Irving is actually injured. They kind of said that he had a ankle sprain or ankle something or whatever, went for an MRI, and that was the end of the information we had about Bucky Irving after the game last week. So we're not sure. But if he does play, then he will do better than Rachaad White. But Rachaad White should be the person who replaces him if that's the case. Egbuka, also on the Tampa Bay Bucks, it struggled a little bit last week against the Eagles D. Eagles were really trying to figure out how he works and was able to beat him to the punch. But at the same time, he still put up 100 yards last week. So I definitely feel like Egbuka is the person to take on the Bucks. Him and Chris Godwin feel like they're really making that connection with Baker Mayfield. And I would continue to push for that connection. As far as Seattle goes, they're kind of a middle of the pack team for me still. I'm not expecting great numbers. I was expecting a lot from Charbonnet last week, and I didn't see anything that was relevant. I know they can be explosive, and I know that is an amazing thing to watch on the football game. But from a fantasy perspective, that's not going to give you the numbers that you need. So I would steer clear from Seattle's receivers and running backs this week. I could see maybe Sam Darnold, just because he's really quick to make those decisions, and I'm not sure that Tampa Bay has a plan for him, so we'll see. I feel like Jackson Smith, Najigba, you have to sound it out to make it work.
I just call him JSN.
He's averaging 6. Oh, that's important. You put in C's for Megan.
Next time.
Did you know he's averaging 16 yards a carry? It's crazy. I feel like he's doing his best impression of DK Metcalf here, where he's trying to help Seattle to forget that they ever made that trade and that he is the next best thing in Seattle. And I'm hoping to see great things, and I think that he is a great trade, or if he's sitting in your bench players, definitely put him up there so that he can give you the points that he needs to. Detroit at Cincinnati, Chris?
Sounds great. Another quick game, and hopefully their roster. Which we do. All right, Cincinnati looks lost. Joe Burrow's obviously not there. And unfortunately, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins just look really sad on the sidelines because Joe Burrow's not there. Chase Brown You're going to go ahead and have opportunity, but you're facing the Detroit Lions defense, who has stopped the top runners in the league these last few weeks. And so when you have an excellent defense and an all-star highest scoring offense, this is going to be a Detroit Lions game. So again, if you have anybody on Detroit that has starting possibility or even a chance of getting the ball hard targets between David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Sam Laporta, Jared Goff, they're all going to have or should have a good game. Jamar Chase, I hate to say you don't start him, but at this point, I just feel that Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are only flex eligible. This is one of those opportunities that you can probably trade the name base for the high name and get a pretty good haul for him, and still it's not going to hurt you numbers wise because they're not going to be doing those the rest of the year, or at least until late December when we're really looking at fantasy football being over at that point. So just something you want to be looking at. This is a good time to trade high for Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. That's all I have to say about the Cincinnati game. Why don't we go ahead and do a Los Angeles Chargers game?
Don't know what to say about the Chargers. I was really all for them at the beginning of the year. Really loved Justin Herbert. I know, Chris, you were unhappy, but I was right when the Chargers took on the Chiefs and won. But then last week I was completely shocked and didn't feel like they really played their hearts out. So I'm not sure what to expect here. I feel like Herbert is doing his best, but he doesn't really have the team around him that we'd expect. But then if you look at his running back and his wide receiver, both Marion Hampton and Ladd McConkey were expected to do amazing things this year, and they just aren't. So I'm I don't know what to do. Hopefully they'll figure it out and they'll make a play for the end of the year, but this game is kind of a coin flip for me. I don't know who to pick. I feel like Washington has been a much better team than we were expecting, even without Jaden Daniels. We are expecting that he is going to return this week. But even between him or Marcus Mariota, they're kind of the same person. I don't think that if you close your eyes or I guess we're not looking at numbers and player faces or whatever else, they played the exact same. So props to Washington on making sure that their first and second string quarterbacks were both trained and running the same plays because it didn't seem that big of a difference between the two. And if Daniels is going to come back and he's just a much better quarterback, then I kind of expect that the Commanders are going to win this game. Chris?
Yep, that is the best way of putting that. Commanders are going to be, it's a coin flip, an absolute coin flip. So where we got? Oh, right, the Buffalo Bills.
The game that I bequeathed to you.
Once again, I greatly appreciate rivalry matchup. Buffalo's going to be wearing their new white jerseys. They're supposed to have a massive rowdy crowd on a Sunday night football. You guys know how this is. Buffalo is going to be loud. The crowd's going to be in it. The defense is going to be in it. They're going to be in their new jerseys, so you know they're going to want to show out, especially against the New England Patriots, who they absolutely because they have had lost
History.
against. Yeah, I mean, history's the best way to put it. One of the things to keep a look at: Stephon Diggs, Matt Collins, two former Buffalo Bills coming back to Buffalo. They're going to probably want to show out, but they aren't going to be the talk. Ramondre Stevenson, Travion Henderson, those are the people I would watch. The Bills have the worst rushing defense in the league, so watch the New England Patriots to try to run the ball and keep Josh Allen off the field. When Josh is on the field, expect him to throw it. Throw it, throw it, throw it. I expect this to be a very big passing attack for the Bills this week because It's Sunday night. Like I said, new uniforms. They're going to want to show out a little. But that's all I really have to say about the Buffalo Bills game. Megan?
I can't believe you didn't mention James Cook.
I mean, he did fantastic. He did really, really well, but I just don't think that he's. I mean, the guy. You're right. I should have mentioned James Cook. If you have James Cook, you should be starting James Cook. If you don't have James Cook, trade Jamar Chase for James Cook. You will win out on that trade every single time. The guy has the scrimmage line is over 100 yards scrimmage every single week. He is currently holding the record for most consecutive touchdowns in Buffalo Bills history, passing Thurman Thomas
Yes,
last
he is.
year. And so there's one of those. I just try not to geek out. I love this team so much, but it's one
I
of those
know.
that James Cook is
I just
about
don't
as
push
solid.
buttons.
But truly, I think that the Buffalo Bills, the way that this game's going to play out, New England's going to run the ball, try to spend the clock, keep Josh Allen off the field, and in order for the Bills to get into the game and to actually keep up, if New England is scoring, which they possibly can with that run game, they're going to utilize Josh versus James.
Does
That's my
Drake May run?
Not really. Drake May's like Joe Burrow. He can, but it's not in his normal gaming run. But granted, last week Spencer Rattler ran, which is not something that he really did in South Carolina when he was in college. So,
We changed his name to Rucker.
oh, okay. Next week we'll make a note. Um, so that's kind of where I'm thinking where this game lay. But that's all I have to say about that. Let's go to Monday night.
Sounds good.
Jacksonville.
Kansas City at Jacksonville. Again, I don't know what to do with Kansas City. Jacksonville, we can just say that Trevor Lawrence is setting the bar lower and lower and lower on what he's able to accomplish on his team, which is really, really sad, but it's just uh, I don't know if it's him. I don't know if it's coaching. I don't know. It can't be his receivers because Tank Bigsby is veteran and has had monster years in the past. Brian Thomas is one of the fastest players in the league. And then Travis Hunter, also a veteran player. So I don't know. Maybe it's deep. I don't know. Jacksonville not doing well this year. Kansas City also not doing well this year, except for last week when Xavier Worthy came back. And that person was, it's like this, like they didn't even know he existed, or the team didn't exist before Xavier Worthy came back because he received every single touch and everybody else just kind of bowed down to him and let him do his thing. And I don't know if it's because Travis Kelce potentially mistakenly hit him and caused him to have this injury that took him out for 4 weeks, but they just continuously gave the ball to Xavier Worthy last week, and for good reason. But nobody else touched that ball. I saw Pacheco had a little bit, which was nice because he's benched on my fantasy team, but he has done nothing this year. Um, and then Kelsey, I'm just kind of fed up with Kelsey. He did not once go and celebrate with the team after their touchdowns or their scores or interceptions or whatever it was. Like he just was kind of back off in his own little world and not being a team player. And if you know the Kansas City team and you know what they stand for and you truly know the Kelseys, that's who they are. So for Travis to be pulling that, I'm just over him. So put him on your team if you want. He'll probably make plays for you and give you some points, but he's not somebody that I would rely on to week to do well or to really be a team player.
Yeah, that consistency is not there. He's had in the past where you could always expect him to at least get you 12 to 15 points. And he's
Yeah,
just
right?
not there. But you're right, Xavier Worthy. I mean, that kid is what they said they had based their entire offense around and what we were preaching about at the beginning of the year. And
Right.
we were like, I mean, how much were they really? And truly, They did. They have based everything around it. So this is the scary thing for Kansas City. If they were just waiting for him to come back and saying that opens up everything, this changes the way that we look at Kansas City before. Because I mean, before last week, they hadn't won a game, and so
Yep.
now that they finally, or I guess they had won the one game against the Giants, but they hadn't won a meaningful game, and then they slaughtered the Ravens, which again, bad defense, we get it, but still, this is you didn't want to see if as any fan other than Kansas City Chief fans, you didn't want to see the Chiefs have like you're like okay, put them in the
Orpy?
ground, yeah. So I definitely agree with you on Xavier Worthy. I have him on one of my fantasy teams, and it is now time to start him. Because
Definitely.
there's no more rush. So.
Yeah,
But
we said last week that to give it a week or so because we expected that it was going to take him some
yeah,
time,
shocked.
but it did not feel like they're like maybe throw him into the fire and see if he swims, type. I know I just did two different metaphors, but um
Close them off.
I guess it worked out,
Yeah.
but yeah, definitely start Xavier Worthy if you have him on your teams because he's Kansas City's savior essentially.
Yeah. I think I can you cannot put it in any. All right, so that is the end of the matchups for this week. When we come back, we're going to go ahead and talk about our sleepers, locks, and our trap players, and then we're going to get out of there. So we'll be right back.
Sounds good.
Make sure to like and subscribe now. All right, after those matchups, you can see why we have so many different options between the injuries and the bye weeks. So let's go ahead and get to our locks, our sleepers, and those trap players for this week. To start off with our sleepers, why don't we go ahead and talk a little bit about Spencer Rattler? Really surprised me about the Buffalo Bills. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I felt like I had not really expected Spencer Rattler to be a a force, right? Like, and then you start watching the game, and he's making connections. He's hitting his targets. He's pretty consistent. Like, he is a good quarterback. He just is not in a team that really envelops who he is. And I feel like as we move forward, and if New Orleans does a good job, then we might be able to see him really come to fruition as far as a quarterback for the NFL this year. Woody Marks, again, somebody that I would not have expected to be somebody we'd be talking about, but Houston is kind of hurting for new places to go and new plays to do, and they really want to become the etc. as far as what else they can do. And Woody Marks is up for the challenge. And he's really been okay and okay and okay. And he he's really somebody to watch. I think he had a really I think he had a touchdown last week and a couple of receptions that yeah, I think you're right. Like two like 70-yard touchdowns or something like that. It was amazing. So definitely watch him. Probably not on a lot of teams because he's not a well-known name, but definitely somebody to watch as we go further into this year. Chris, you want to talk about the rest?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like we were talking about, watch him and see if he's on those waiver wires. Go ahead and pick him up because these are going to be those. Spencer Rattler is not rostered in many leagues. Woody Marks is probably rostered more, but it's still something where you can go ahead and get those substitutions in for these bye weeks and for those injuries. So I completely agree. Those are two great sleeper picks right off the bat. Cortland Sutton, I really like the matchup here. Portland has been scoring a touchdown in each of his last three games. So I like this matchup against the Eagles just to say, hey, just expect Bo Nix to go there. Darren Waller scored a touchdown last week after Tyreek went down. I expect those targets to go somewhere, and Darren Waller is primed to take them. Hey Jude and the New York Giants beat out Young Wei Koo. I don't know much about him, but the matchup screams again that they should probably be able to use him as a good sleeper. And then Minnesota, I think we're both on the Minnesota train here with it being an international game like we talked about before. They're not going to be dealing with the time lag. They're out there already. They've had the time to practice, and
Rookie quarterback.
exactly, and they're playing really slow. Not rookie quarterback, but rookie quarterback, rookie running back, rookie wide receivers. It's a rookie team.
Both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's something that we're just gonna go ahead and have to see with Minnesota, but I think that's where the sleepers lie. Let's go ahead and take a look at our trap players now. Um, Back to Minnesota. Yeah, we said defense. Defense, I expect them to be a sleeper. Offense, I kind of expect the Cleveland defense to take over, and beat up on them a little bit. And
Well, I feel like with Carson Wentz, we're not sure if he's gonna play. We're not sure if JJ McCarthy's gonna play. We're not. We're just not sure from an offensive perspective what's going to happen in Minnesota because of everything that's happening to the team. So I think that Carson Wentz is our trap here because who knows,
right.
right? Like if we're confused, then they have to be confused. So we're just saying no go on the offense. Defense is going to win the game for them, not to mention the fact that they've already been overseas for a week. So that's what I was saying for quarterback. Christian McCaffrey, we want to talk about how he's the only target that's going to be in San Francisco this week. We've talked about it in our matchups, but if you really look at Christian McCaffrey, it's week 5 and he's not injured. That's like a miracle, first of all. Second of all, he's the only target, so he's probably going to get injured this week.
We don't want him
So,
to, obviously, but
obviously, but if you look at what he's done in the past and you look at what he's dealing with in this team this week, who knows? But we're saying he's a trap player for that reason. Garrett Wilson, I'm going to let you take him because he won my fantasy team for me last week.
well, I honestly think that the matchup is bad. Garrett Wilson's going to be facing off against 2 All Stars in Dallas, and we saw that Dallas they'll get 40 put on them, but it's still one of those things where they were they wanted to just show out against the Green Bay Packers that I think this week, even though they're going to Meadowlands for the Jets, I think they're just going to focus on Garrett Wilson. Green Bay had a lot more weapons than the Jets do. You have Justin Fields, you have Garrett Wilson, you have Brees Hall. That's it. So Mason Taylor maybe, but I'll wait and see. So I don't feel as confident on Garrett Wilson as I did last week when.
Yes, we'll see.
Yeah, Dalton Schultz, Houston against Baltimore. This is going to be one of those things where Baltimore is going to focus on something, and I think really tight ends haven't been beating them up too much. So that's kind of where I'm saying, yeah, he's been producing, but I don't think he produced the game. Matthew Prater, I don't. It's not that I don't think the Bills are going to score. It's I think that the Bills are going to score touchdowns versus field goals. So that's my thought process between for Matthew Prater. As for the New York Giants, you have it against New Orleans. It it yells, "Hey, this is a great matchup," but we saw what they did against Buffalo last week. For New Orleans, I expect them to do more and gash the New York Giants defense, who is not as good as the Bills defense, or just absolute where you're not going to see those turnovers. You're not going to see those opportune moments that like the Bills have. And so hopefully that is something that you guys can rely on the trap players. Now let's get to our locks. Jared Goff, Detroit, like we stated before, number 1 offense and the number 1 scoring offense. They are playing Cincinnati. It's just an absolute lock. The Cincinnati's defense. Jonathan Taylor? Megan, he's your boy.
He's one of my boys. Jonathan Taylor, I was kind of on the fence about him over the beginning of the year, but after the last couple of weeks, the man's a tank and he has cardio for days and you just don't know what to expect from him, but it's always good. Jonathan Taylor is an absolute lock for me. Jalen Waddle, we talked about already. He's going to be the target with Tyreek Hill out, and he's really the only one left in Miami that can do anything. So look for Jalen Waddle to be the target that Tua is going to be hitting all week. Jake Ferguson, if you missed the Dallas game, go back and watch it. Jake Ferguson had a phenomenal game. The game was phenomenal. Definitely something to look forward to see what Dallas is doing in the future, and Jake Ferguson is part of it. Chris, want to talk about Andre Schmidt?
Yep. This just goes down to matchup again. Yes, Cleveland's going across the water. I don't think Cleveland's offense with the rookie quarterback like we talked about, rookie running back like we talked about, the rookie wide receivers we're talking about, are going to score a lot of touchdowns. But you're facing a soft Minnesota defense that will bend a lot, but they won't break. So what does that mean? You're going to be able to kick the ball very long in field goal situations. So I believe Schmidt is going to be your top kicker in this. That's where I would go ahead and say. Rams defense. We like our defenses. The Rams just have a really good matchup, I feel. They are facing off against just another injured team. San Francisco. We've talked about it. We've beat it to death through the matchups, through our sleepers, through everything. Just San Francisco does not have the players to play. And they're one
even though they're still 3-1, so they're figuring it out somehow. Yeah. But
when you're injured every single year, you're gonna learn some kind of thing. So 3 years of all-stars being injured, you're going to be able to adapt a little bit. But I believe the Rams defense on a short week, it's just gonna be too much. Megan and I, we don't like to usually do international picks or short week picks because it's so hard to judge. But I think this is pretty much an absolute lock, saying that the Rams are going to shut down the San Francisco 49ers.
I guess we'll see.
All right, guys. Well, that is our show. Thank you so much for watching, hanging out with us this entire time. Make sure you like and subscribe the show. We appreciate you being here. Again, I am Chris. That is Megan. And always remember,
nobody's heard Crystal Wagons like CTW. Have a good night.
See you next week.